welcome once again to IGN's News, Games, and More. I'm your host, Max Scoville, joined by my good friends who are all working from home with me and keeping me from going completely insane. Matt Kim from our news team.
Hello, hi.
Destin Legary, who's been coordinating all of this nonsense from his battle station. And Jeremy Azevedo, our pal.
Hi, it's me, your pal Jeremy, coming at you from the Azevedo House of Scream.
So yeah, as a lot of you may or may not have picked up on, we're all sort of on this mandatory house arrest quarantine situation, and we're making the best of it. So please pardon our dust and bear with us through any technical hiccups and screams and, cabin fever and what have you. But, that hasn't stopped other things from happening in the grand world of gaming. And first thing this morning, we got a big, huge presentation from Sony's Mark Cerny on the PlayStation 5's nitty-gritty technical specs.
It sure was a presentation.
Look at that podium. I got the B-roll up there right now. It's him talking to...
Yes.
Those are apparently actually people. They move throughout the presentation. I was scrubbing through it earlier today, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Those are actually people, and I think. Or they animated them to move a little bit.
That's an odd call. Yeah. Do you think that was all recorded like long before? Like it was broadcast live, but is it possible that was a thing that Sony had, baked and ready to go that was made before people were told to avoid each other in a small room?
No way. They made it like 2 weeks ago.
It definitely wasn't presented live. I don't think, was it?
Those shadow.
The video was live, but Mark certainly wasn't talking live, was he?
So those shadow things move throughout this presentation. So I actually don't know, but those could potentially be people. It's unclear.
It's a weird one. But obviously the big thing that everyone was talking about is less the people moving in the presentation and more the kind of incredibly technical nature of this whole thing, which was initially supposed to be for the Game Developers Conference.
Yeah,
Correct.
This was for a much nerdier audience, I think, and a much more technical audience. And it's funny because all of our chat was just like, show me the goddamn box. Okay? Like that's like every comment was that pretty much.
I think my favorite comment, Jeremy, was, are we going to be quizzed on this later? Like, what is happening?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely had the look of like a college lecture for sure.
Yeah, it was like GDC was canceled for coronavirus stuff, and it's good that Sony wanted to get that out there. And it's honestly probably pretty exciting for game developers who wouldn't have been able to afford to go to GDC initially because they're like, oh, I get to be in the room for this. But it's also like for anybody like us or like your average, gaming fan who subscribes to PlayStation on YouTube, it's probably a little bit, baffling to be like, oh, I didn't quite catch that part about all of it.
Well, I think the problem that you're alluding to, Max, is that this was sort of promoted as a community thing. Come check this out on Sony PlayStation. We're going to be talking about, the PS5, and there's that disconnect between expectations and what was actually delivered. This was definitely a GDC conversation. It was a technical analysis. There's some interesting stuff in there if you really, really dive into the nitty-gritty. But following what Xbox did, where they actually had tangible things to show, they've already shown the console, and they've released all their analytics, and then Sony has this presentation, which is basically a PowerPoint, and we still don't know so much about the platform. I think fans felt pretty let down by that.
I kind of got an interesting vibe from it, though, that Mark Cerny was sort of peacocking a little bit. Like, it sounded like he was saying, okay, Xbox has got these stats, and they are what they are, but what a teraflop is and does is not what you think it is and does. We've already, completely figured that out, and, don't worry about it. And he was just kind of he was... As dry as it was, there was a sort of cockiness to it as he went through all of the details of the advancements that they had made. Did anybody else get that impression?
He's sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, it totally sounds like that they were very confident in their tech, which was weird because some of the things that I've seen online is they also published just the bare specs of it, and number-wise, it does come behind the Xbox Series X, and so they came at it with a lot of confidence, even though on paper it doesn't seem as impressive as Microsoft's box.
So you say it comes behind. It comes behind in some categories. Like I know the teraflops were behind like 13% or something like that. What stats specifically fall behind, and then which ones do you think are actually a little bit ahead? Because I know there was sort of some disparity on the technical breakdown for certain things where Sony actually was potentially a little bit ahead.
Well, it sounds like memory bandwidth is potentially higher. It was a little confusing how it was outlined. Outside of that, I don't know. The 3D audio was the only thing that really kind of jumped out at me as being just at a very base level, like higher numbers, if that's what we're talking about here. But the storage was a little smaller. The sort of video output was about the same. GPU maybe like a little bit less power. I don't know. Does it matter, right? Like
Loading times.
doesn't.
Their SSD is slightly faster. That's what it was. Thank you, chat, for pointing it out. But
so at the end of the day, though, what really matters is how it's implemented. You know, like it doesn't.
That's right.
Like all of this raw power is great in theory. It's technically very interesting, but the thing, like how developers choose to use it and optimize it, is really where it's going to be like most exciting. And the thing that I think they were really trying to lean on, that Mark Cerny was hammering home at the top of the conversation, was that their goal with this is to make this like the easiest for developers to. I literally don't understand what it's like to get a brand new dev kit for a console and be like, hey, here's where you're going to put your game, and like what comes with that as a challenge. But he talked about how, you know, with previous iterations, previous PlayStations, you know, there was a kind of learning curve that came with it, and he kept being like, this one we've seen is the quickest that developers can get accustomed with this hardware, which if it's easier for developers to get games on a system, it doesn't necessarily matter which is more powerful. You know, if they're more inclined to put, you know, their games on something that's accessible, then that's another conversation entirely.
Yeah, what difference does the power make if the developers can't figure out what to do with it or how to use it, or it takes like months and for them to get a handle on it?
yeah, chat, I'd really love to hear a thumbs up or a thumbs down emoji, or see a thumbs up or a thumbs down emoji in chat. Thumbs up if you thought this was a good conference. Thumbs down if you didn't like it. And if you're in the middle, just post a smiley face. I don't know. If you're in the middle and you don't want to take a side because you're a coward, just post a smiley face. No, but overall, I think this is detrimental to Sony's, you know, current standing point. So I give it a thumbs down in that respect. I think there's a lot that we can dive into tech spec wise, but I think people were just not expecting a huge technical breakdown. Matt, what's your take? You got to take a side. You must choose. I think Matt's lagging out. Jeremy?
You gotta do something. Lagging?
Jeremy, what do you think?
Like I said, as technical and sort of like hard to digest as it was for somebody who's not a tech expert necessarily, I still found it pretty interesting because I really responded to the context to what he was saying. So he's giving all of these technical stats and talking about how they compare to one thing or another, but really what it kept coming down to is how's this going to affect your game and how's this going to affect developers? Like he went into this whole thing about how, you know, you have to design, let's say you've got this castle and you've got to design like weird little nooks and crannies and pathways to get there, or you've got to calculate like how long it takes for a texture to load and from what distance, and you have to waste all this time doing all this nonsense as a developer that could just be solved by having that stuff happen automatically. And it seems like they have a lot of confidence that so much of that work will just kind of happen in the background. It will free developers up to just focus on, okay, what happens in my castle, instead of, you know, how big do I need to make this room? How many elevators do I need to put into this thing? Like all that stupid crap is like out the door. You know, no more elevator rides, no more subway rides. As much as I love the subway rides in Spider-Man, I could do without them. You know, as much as I love the conversations that happen on the the elevator in the Normandy, I could live without him. Those conversations could happen elsewhere. And you know, he starts getting into this all this stuff with the 3D audio kind of coming from the machine and sort of being as important as the visuals. That's something you don't hear a lot of people talking about in gaming very much. And it, you know, for somebody like me who comes from more of a film background, that's super important. Like the number one way you can tell the difference between a professional and an amateur filmmaker is in the sound. Like the sound design is always way more important to somebody who really knows what they're doing than to somebody who is just like kind of approaching it from an amateur perspective. So them focusing on it in this way and having something that uses like almost the same amount of power for the audio as like the entire PS4, I think he said. Don't quote me on that because I'm not sure if I understood that correctly, but it sounds like they were only using like a tiny little sliver of the GPU to like power that shit before, and now they're like vastly expanding what is possible. And
No, that's incredibly exciting because, like, I mean, we've seen the sort of visual side of things. We've got 4K HDR, and frame rate's always getting optimized, and it's like that's it's going to be kind of a incremental leap hardware wise for that, but it's more like how that's affected. Like the audio side of things it's hard to even comprehend. I think like the first time that whole situation really like clicked for me of like how much audio makes a difference in games is I plugged in a pair of like really good headphones through the optical jack to play Skyrim, and it was like suddenly I'm like, oh, the footsteps are coming from my feet. And that was like a that was a 360 game. That was 5 years ago or what, 10 years ago. Like it's crazy how much this is obviously going to have changed.
Yeah. So when they were talking about the audio stuff, I was definitely intrigued. He made it sound like that the console specifically is going to be designed to harness the power of audio, like it's going to output its own audio or something. Did you guys take that away, or am I just crazy?
That's what it sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
What I hope that is just that it is like smart calibration, because so much of that is like you can have the best setup possible and have it put on garbage settings. Like you've always you'll see the people with like a beautiful 4K TV that isn't calibrated and it's set on like default true motion mode or whatever. But in the case of like if you have a game that you're like, they're like, what size room are you in? And, what's your speaker setup? If there's something that can like work with that to basically fully optimize for your specific situation, that's exciting.
Well, he definitely talked about that. He said there would be like maybe little games that you could play to like kind of optimize the audio for your ear and for your environment, and that it would be like kind of unique to you because it was just too hard to make it.
Yeah, we don't really have that for audio. We have like, make the slider so that one image is entirely visible and one is like barely visible or whatever. But we don't do there's no audio version for that unless you're calibrating a surround sound system.
So one of the things that he was talking about was the ability to create virtual surround sound, where basically, kind of like a glasses-less 3D TV, if you sit in a sweet spot, the PS5 could potentially virtually simulate what surround sound would be like. So even though you only have two speakers coming at you from the front, they're working on technology to make it sound like it's coming like a traditional six output surround sound system, which is really interesting. And so one of the things that they're working on is trying to sort of make that sweet spot bigger for people, is what they're currently working on. But they said that, but Mark Cerny also said that headphones are still a gold standard for 3D audio on the PS5.
So taking a look at all these leaked images and such, I just brought up some here. Do you think that this is going to be a sound device of some sort, like outputting from the front of the console, Matt? Matt can't hear me, so let's just pull back the curtain for a second. Matt can't hear me for some reason. Everybody else can but Matt. Yeah. So Max, why don't you ask him that really quick?
I got a better question. Destin, what do you think of Matt?
Matt's great. Matt is wonderful.
For some reason you can't. I think you have. Matt, you can't hear Destin?
Not even a little bit. I can hear all of you guys. I can't.
That's so funny.
Do you have him muted or something?
No, what I've been doing for the last like 10 minutes is I have the YouTube video up and I'm just listening to him, but like 5 minutes into the past. And
God,
so
if only we had a PlayStation 5 to help us solve this audio quandary.
I've been kind of sweating in my seat here because I'm not really sure what to do because Destin's talking a lot.
I'm going to go full screen on some gameplay. Matt, hang up and call back. All right, Max, can you tell him that?
So, I don't
hang
know.
up and call back, he says. I'm having a beer.
I mean, I can do that. Okay, I can do that.
This is the third hour of talking out my ass about PlayStation 5 specs that I barely comprehend, and I'm fully transparent about that. But like this happened first thing this morning, and we're doing our best to think on our feet from our various respective kitchens.
Wait. Should I actually hang up and leave? Should I hang
I'm not joking. Okay. Actually hang up and call back. Destin's going to put up gameplay or something. we're still live
Test,
though?
test.
Did that work?
Yeah, I hear Destin now.
Yeah.
Hey.
Anyway.
I could have just done that the whole time.
We will eventually get like the dumbed down explanation of the PS5 for scrubs like us that we can pick apart and untangle. But I don't know. It's nice to have stuff like that to hear. I mean, someone in the chat was like, you're all clueless and it shows on your faces. You should get some devs to come in and talk about it. It's like, come in where? Into which of our homes should we have developers into? But yes, we should. We should absolutely get devs to talk about this. It's been announced for 7 hours. So like,
so actually, Max
still not know or care. Like it's again, like fully understanding the details of all of this technical spec stuff. I don't think is as important as knowing what they're going to do with it. That's what I want to know.
I'll be honest, chat does bring up a good point. We could reach out to some developers and see if we can get them on this very show, maybe next day or later in the week. We do have some great articles on IGN.com. If you want to be all salty about it, you could go read them. IGN.com also did a breakdown about some of the tech comparisons. And what else did we post today, Max, Jeremy? Anybody? Bunch of stuff.
Well, we have
been on it all day.
We have an ongoing article that's being refreshed constantly. That's everything that we learned. We also have a detailed breakdown of all of the specs, and we have a comparison of the PS5 to the Xbox Series X. In addition to that, right now, there's another team filming an episode of Next Gen Console Watch where they're getting obviously like expert opinion and a little bit more detailed intel into this stuff from people that are working on different projects. And that will be a really good place to check on Friday for more info on this. But this is kind of like a little bit more of a casual show that we're doing every single day just to kind of like keep having a place to talk to you guys about what we're doing and what's going on in the space.
Yeah, this guy, Matt Kim, did a great article that's called PS5 Full Specs Revealed, where he has a bunch of images and things that you guys can read. So if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, you can check that out. And we'll be developing these stories as we go throughout the day. This show is about chilling, having a beer, talking with you guys about the news of the day, and, making sure Matt is there to address any like important things about how we handle our news process. So just pulling back the curtain, that's the goal of this show. So maybe give us a break. How about that?
You had it so Matt couldn't hear you, so that if you said anything wrong, you wouldn't get actually.
Yeah.
Right. There are hardware experts on staff, and they're churning out great content on the website, but they're not here at the moment.
So there's another issue with getting developers to talk about the PS5 dev kit, where if
they can't
PS5 tech, if they've gotten their hands on a dev kit, they've probably signed a pretty strict non-disclosure agreement where they can't actually talk about its details extensively, especially not right now. Mm-hmm. And if they haven't gotten their hands on it, then they're just going to be like, I don't know, dev-splaining things to us, I guess, which is also good when we can ask them about that. Yeah. But the big takeaway is that we don't know what teraflops are.
Have you guys done that? Have you guys done that thing where where like on YouTube, it's like 3D virtual barbershop, right? And you just put on your headphones and you're supposed to close your eyes, and then it's like a barber's like walking in and around you and cutting.
Is that like an ASMR thing that you do?
Yeah, well, that's like kind of, but most
that.
Hey, I mean, they showed it to us in like psychology class in high school, but it's like the same concept. It's like the ASMR concept before it became like an internet thing. Point is that was rad, and that's basically what I'm kind of hoping for with the PS5, to basically trigger ASMR. The PS5 is an ASMR machine, and that's
I'd be into that.
Yeah, that's enough for me.
I hope they have a game about getting your hair cut, and it's so realistic that your neck itches for days afterwards.
Oh, actually, no, that sounds awful.
Anyway, speaking of virtual things and high-tech stuff, you guys talked yesterday about how the Matrix 4 had its production shut down for the immediate future due to coronavirus, but I have great news. The Matrix might be a little bit farther off, but Gabe Newell said that we're closer to the Matrix than people realize. He had a big, huge interview with IGN's Ryan McCaffrey about mostly Half-Life Alyx, but also just kind of about Valve stuff in general. And he talked about, kind of like you get these rare sort of like wise men on the mountain interviews with Gaben, and he'll occasionally be like, we were very disappointed by Artifact. Oops, we made Steam Machine. So he talks about a bunch of this stuff, but what's kind of crazy is that he straight up says that Valve is working on brain-computer interface technology.
Sweet.
He's not even the only one to bring up the Matrix today. Like Mark Cerny also did.
Yeah.
He compared the PS5 architecture to like being in the Matrix.
Which shows that like people who are in the know on tech are like really actively pursuing, recreating the Matrix, but not science fiction-y, that's kind of interesting. It's weird that like something that you think of as like a fantasy thing is like a real goal for some of the leaders in technology.
How do you guys feel about brain interface stuff?
No,
Scares me.
get out of here, Gabe. Like Gabe, he's made so many cool games. This kind of creeps me out. Stay out of my brain, Gabe.
We can't
Don't
even trust
touch my
Facebook
brain.
with our personal information, let alone having Gabe tap into our freaking brain, man.
Right? Yeah.
Don't touch
Yeah, I
my
don't
brain,
know.
Gabe.
I don't know what that would even mean exactly. If it would be like one of those, if it would just be like little, like if it tracks like little impulses on your head, if you'd have to like jack in with a cable to the back of your neck like Neo, or if it would just be like I don't, again, that's like so like I love that we're like we can barely unpack like what the next PlayStation has in it, but this is stuff that's like this is a little bit above our pay grade. The stuff that Gabe Newell is doing with people's brains.
It's simple. The machine is free, but you pay for it with your precious bodily fluid.
My bodily fluid probably isn't that precious, and when you really think about it, I've been trying to get rid of it for some time.
How do we go to HR when we're work from home? just asking for a friend.
Just open up a private message and type ASL.
Hey, everyone's on Slack.
Oh boy.
I don't know. I kind of love like this like the fact that we're doing this, that we're doing a virtual TV show hangout, talk to each other, and it's like this is kind of like a low budget thing. That's such a Matrixy thing to do. Like the Matrix is about people working from home.
I love the Matrix movie. Just watching this B-roll again, maybe I'll watch that movie tonight. Just talking about the Matrix, just to sort of nerd out for a second. Do you guys like the Matrix Trilogy or nah?
Yeah, they're fine.
The first movie is good.
First one's good, yeah.
I like the first half of it. I think the second is super underrated, and I think the third one just drives off a cliff.
Yeah, the
third one is like fun to watch in like a so bad it's good kind of.
I love me some Keanu Reeves, but I definitely would have been interested if they cast Will Smith in the lead role, just to see what it would have been like.
Maybe he's in it and we just don't know. Maybe he's the villain.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see in like 2021, I guess.
Yeah, I am a little bummed. I was really excited that The Matrix was filming in San Francisco. We obviously know that that production was probably delayed. I hope I'm not jumping ahead in the run of show. I think we talked about it yesterday. But
no, that's how I introed it.
Oh, yeah. So Matrix was delayed. I have to wonder what's happened to the cast and crew. Have they returned home? Because I know Keanu was like staying in Oakland, and they have like the whole cast back basically for Matrix 4. I have to wonder what they're doing. Hopefully they're, back home with their families at least.
Yeah, I don't know what that even means, like how much that's going to sort of mess stuff up, or like how, like what does the future of movie releases even look like? But I don't know. I was weirdly getting kind of excited about Matrix 4, and I was initially very like kind of negative, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, get the gang back together. What the hell are they going to do? What kind of wacky scrambles are they going to get into?
Wacky scrambles? I like putting it that way.
I mean, it's hard not to be
like
curious
slapstick
what it
nonsense.
could be.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the problems with like delaying shoots is that people have like multiple jobs lined up throughout the year. So if you can't do it in like a 3-week window, they have to go and fly to like New Zealand for a second movie. But I guess since everything's getting delayed, that might not be an issue.
Well, I'm curious about like the sort of the future of we've already seen like digital backlot become a really big thing. Like the Mandalorian had, their environments were rendered in Unreal and then put on that like, 360 wraparound screen thing. Like I wonder if we're going to start seeing, like video game crowd technology utilized for that to avoid having a whole bunch of extras in one place. And then that, that screws up jobs for people who are extra.
We talked about that on another episode recently where we were talking about kind of defeating the uncanny valley, and how it might get to the place where you can very realistically render a human figure and like their movements and like face and eyes and everything. And once we get there, like what point is there to have any actors level background actors?
I mean, they're already reviving dead actors.
Yeah, like constantly. That's like such a common thing now. Like aging them up, aging them down. Like we talk about this a lot. It's crazy.
Gotcha. Technology is witchcraft.
Basically. And the
Well-
more I'm thinking more about like what you guys were saying about like the brain interface thing, like the Gabe Newell deal. What if we're thinking about it like too like in too physical of a sense? Like maybe it is something more like the way that the machine like kind of learns and responds to you. For example, like eye tracking the movements, or like imagine you're playing an RPG, right? And like you know how they always have like the sort of like the wheel where you decide whether you're going to be like pithy or whether you're going to, you know, be heroic or whatever. What if you could just say whatever the hell you want? What if you could just say anything? And then the machine sort of like thinks about that and responds to it realistically. Wouldn't that be crazy?
If it's going to be like any other consumer technology in the history of the world, the first generation will let you open your emails and close your emails, and that's it. That's all you can do. You can think, brain, make email open, and the computer would take like 10 seconds to figure it out and be like, here's your email. And sometimes it might just open like the weather app, because, you know, so that's it. That's Gen 1 of brain technology.
You're not thinking galaxy brain like Gabe, man.
I don't want my brain doing stuff. I have enough problems with that thing as it is.
Fair enough.
Anyway, moving on. Speaking of, I don't know, high-tech AI-driven things, we got a new Overwatch hero today, who is Echo, who is an evolutionary robot programmed with a rapidly adapting artificial intelligence. Echo represents the cutting edge of technology. And
she
will
can
also
open emails, and that's it.
she can order you refills of Keurig cups from Amazon.com, and all you have to do is talk to her.
Off to a great start.
Yeah, are you guys? Are you interested in this? Are you excited about the new robot?
This is the first Overwatch hero since last August, and that's weird because normally they're kind of on a shorter cadence. It's like 3 or 4 months back when it was at its peak. Blizzard's making Overwatch 2, which might be the reason why this one took so long, but it's also weird because Overwatch 2 is doing this this thing where all the new maps and heroes that are coming to Overwatch 2 are also just going to be on Overwatch 1, so it's really kind of hard to see what the 2 part of Overwatch 2 is. But you know, it does seem like Blizzard's sort of keeping their head down to work on their next gen Overwatch stuff, and just they put out this new hero for who knows why.
Yeah, the trailer posted 6 hours ago on our YouTube channel. It's already at 40K. That seems to actually be tracking pretty well for us. So I am a little bit surprised that Overwatch people are still so stoked about what's going on with that world, the world of Overwatch, for lack of a better term.
This is a character that's been hinted at since all the way back in 2018. And so I think people have been really waiting for this. This is like one of those things where, like, you know, there's going to be like a new wrestler joining the WWE, and they kind of like hint at it, but you never see him, you know, for like a year and a half while they're working on the contract or whatever. So I'm just sort of curious why now, because I remember there was a since deleted tweet from PlayStation Brazil that said that Overwatch 2 was going to launch in 2020. That's this year.
Right.
So obviously, like, everything's all screwed up now, but if, like, let's put a big if on this, if Overwatch 2 was coming out, like, why are they like still releasing heroes now? Just the timing is really odd.
Because all the heroes are interchangeable and they'll switch back and forth between 2 and 1. Again, it's really hard, I think, with Blizzard's messaging on what exactly the difference is on Overwatch 2, other than like a story mode, which just makes it seem like an expanded DLC more than a sequel. But
I'm actually that's the part I'm really excited about, because I like all the characters. I just don't really. I don't know. I never got into the multiplayer thing of it, and I feel like at this point it's too late to jump onto that. But I really would kind of love to see what, like, you know, get into that, like, live in one of those like cartoon, you know, that cartoon world they have to hang out in. And I do like all this, like, the story stuff. Like Jeremy was saying, like they always sort of have like little things being teased, and then they gradually, like, Doomfist was originally like a background detail or whatever, and then it was came a whole thing.
I do like the tease aspect of how they reveal new Overwatch heroes. It's been really neat to sort of see the character intro cinematics. We just watched the reveal for Echo, but when they do the full CG ones, a lot of the stories are really good. Some of them are really, really touching, and it's just cool because you feel involved with the lore of what's happening in that the Overwatch world, and it's actually a special event when they release one of those animated shorts. Jeremy, do you have a favorite one off the top of your head? Have you watched them all?
I haven't watched them all. I'm more of a Hearthstone guy when it comes to Blizzard games,
Yeah.
which we can talk about briefly if you guys want to after this. But
Well, they haven't done anything new recently, have they?
oh, they have. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't hear this?
That's a setup, bro.
I know.
You gonna run with
playing
it, or?
along. Playing along. Uh, the Overwatch thing, I will just say this like real quick is like I think a lot of us would 100% like watch like a real like anime series based on this, like an ongoing like a Netflix series or something.
Well, that was a leak.
I think a lot of us would play a single player game that used these characters and had like really dived into the story, because the story is pretty cool. But as far as
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, according to a leak from February, Blizzard already sold an animated Overwatch and a Diablo show.
That's
based
right.
on so
that'd
might
be great.
So that doesn't 100% mean that it's going to happen. That's just
Yeah.
like how things work, but it would be nice. As far as Hearthstone goes, I don't know how many Hearthstone heads there are out there, but there's some really exciting news there. That game, one of the things that was interesting about the Gabe Newell interview is he's talking about Artifact and how that was like a little bit of a failure that they had to just kind of suck up and learn from. Meanwhile, the sort of reigning king of card games for a lot of people is Hearthstone. But the problem with Hearthstone is, since they've started doing these seasonal expansions like so much more frequently, and the cost has like gone up and up and up, it's got to the place where like if you want to play competitively, you're talking about hundreds of dollars. And so they've done a couple really interesting things recently that like really changed the game. One being they've got a new class that they've added, which is the Demon Hunter class, which is the first class that they've added to the game since it was launched in 2014. They've sort of like sunset a few of the OP cards, the overused cards that we're kind of sick of seeing in professional play and in competition, like the Mountain Giant or Leroy Jenkins, which you can still play in Wild, but you obviously can't play in Standard with those going forward. They made a bunch of other changes, but the most important thing is they've removed duplicates and packs. And so this has always been the most annoying thing about these kind of games, is that you buy a pack, you buy a whole bunch of packs, and you just get like the same card over and over and over and over. And you can turn them to dust and then use that dust to buy other cards, but the dust isn't worth jack shit, buddy. All right?
No,
like
it's not worth anything.
Yeah, they make it so that you have to dust so many cards, and so you're just like wasting so much money on nonsense in order to get a competitive deck out of this thing. So having it be no duplicates is just absolutely an incredible change that I think is going to bring a lot more people back into the game. And that is a fun game. I do like that game a lot.
That's a super good move. Like that was an annoying thing with like physical trading cards. And like now that we're at like it's like that should never have been an issue with, like if it's computerized, it should know better.
Yeah, right. Like, and the reason why they do the duplicates and everything to like squeeze more and more money out of you, but at a certain point, like a casual player is just not going to spend $100, $200, $300 on staying competitive in this card game, and it just simply isn't fun or playable if you have a really weak deck. Like you'll start running into people that are just absolutely running roughshod over you within just a few matches if you don't have the right cards. So this really kind of levels the playing field, hopefully, I think.
How many people on this panel played Hearthstone? I actually played it a ton way back at launch, to the point where I did one of those land group things where you got the special card back. I got all the card backs for like the first year, and then I just kind of fell off. I had my one deck, and then that deck just got destroyed by an update, and I'm like, oh, I'm done. And then you try out all the other card games, like Magic the Gathering is really good. Do you play Magic also, Matt?
No, actually, the one I'm playing right now is a Riot's card game, Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah, how's that going?
I've never played Magic, but I'm told that it uses Magic like mechanics, and that there's an attack phase and a defense phase per player, as opposed to Hearthstone, which is sort of just 1, 1, 1, 1. I'm digging it. I like it a lot. It's hard because it's such a new game that it changes. It feels like it's changing every other day. So one day there's one meta, and the next day there's another one, and the grind is kind of slow. So I'm having a hard time building my deck, but I do feel like it's easier to get the cards that I want from grinding as opposed to in Hearthstone. So there's that. It's really pretty. It's really well animated. I think every card is animated, which is nice. So,
well, like you guys are predicting, we're losing some talking about card games.
Yeah, we got nothing.
I guess that's just me. Well, whatever. But there's a guy in the chat that brought up something that we forgot to talk about that would be kind of funny to touch on real quick. Iron Mike says, "Cerny want to see your ear holes."
You do.
Oh, yeah.
What's that in reference to?
Did we not get to that?
We didn't talk about that.
Ears.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about that off the air.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Okay. So one of the things that Mark Cerny brought up during his, and I'm trying to bring it up here because I don't want to screw it up because that talk was very jargony, and he used a lot of jargon in this one too. But one of the things that he was talking about is that there's a base level for most people on how they perceive directional audio. It's called HRTF, I believe. And so that's basically, and the PS5 will come with 5 HRTF settings that you can sort of attune to, similar in that whole like, can you see this image but not this image kind of thing. And that's basically that, but for audio. But there are outliers. So for some people, 3D audio will just sound like slightly better surround sound, and that's not the effect that the PS5 wants to go for. And so there is a possible chance that they could do things like take photos of your ears and attune like custom HRTF settings for individual players so that they can get the full benefits of 3D audio. But that's like one option. Another one is like video or even a game that can sort of like act like a hearing test where you sort of play it and then they'll figure out the right audio setting for you.
Hey, chat, how many people in chat, thumbs up or thumbs down, are going to send Mark Cerny pictures of your ears? Give me a thumbs up. I'm going to do it. Even if he doesn't want them, he's getting them anyway. You're getting a photo of my ears, Mr. Mark Cerny.
Okay, now I got a better question. If you had to send Mark Cerny a picture of a part of your body, what body part would you send?
No, I don't want that in chat.
I'd send him a picture of my bare foot, but I'd be putting it on something funny.
You'd probably be better off sending that to Quentin Tarantino.
I want to be in one of his films. No, like do you guys remember that there was that ringtone a few years ago that was like, it was called like the Cricket or something, and only people under 30 could only hear it or something, because as you get older your hearing deteriorates regardless of what you're doing with your life. But like there was this certain pitch that for the most part teachers, grown-ups, parents couldn't hear it, and so kids were using it to like text each other or like just to mess around, and it was like teenagers could hear it. It was weird.
That's pretty smart.
Ben Dyer, Iron Mike, and Stephen Cox are all liars. You're totally going to send your pictures to Mark Cerny. I know it. I see you.
Who do you think has the cutest ears at IGN? There's a question for you.
I'll send him pictures of whatever he wants if it makes the games load faster.
Dan Stapleton, easy, Max. Everybody knows that.
Dan, beautiful ears.
That's his nickname.
Hey, this is something that I see in chat that I think is interesting. Not in our run of show, but it is kind of cool.
Is it about ears?
No, totally unrelated. I'm
All
changing the subject. FC Forchi says, did you guys hear a bunch of retailers have been selling the physical copies of Doom Eternal, apparently with Bethesda's approval? I have seen that. I have seen that on Twitter, that people are getting games that are breaking street date, which kind of makes sense given the circumstances. Like, what do you guys think about that?
So retailers are opening their stores, allowing many people to come in, and they're handing them physical copies of games right now?
That's right. Yeah. So like a lot of times games don't come out till like Friday or something, but it's now Wednesday and they're just like, you know what, you can have it. We have it in stock. You can just take it.
I mean,
they're charging them for it, but
I mean, it's like if you're in a shelter at home scenario or whatever, shelter in place, whatever it's called. And you're not supposed to leave the house unless you're out for groceries or essentials, and you're trying to limit your time outside. And maybe you go to Walmart or Target and you're going to get groceries, and like they have Doom Eternal, they have Doom Eternal, but they're like, sorry, we can't sell it. Like that's kind of stupid. Like if you're there for it, like just that's good. That's good guy Bethesda there.
I think in a practical sense though, like in San Francisco at least, shops are closing down, like non-essential shops. And if you pre-ordered your game at like a local brick and mortar store or a GameStop and you don't know if it's going to be open on Friday because the government says to shut it down, then yeah, I mean, absolutely break street day. Be like, hey, I ordered this and I was going to pick it up Friday, but you might not be open on Friday because of everything that's happening. And they'll be like, oh yeah, for sure.
It's really not the time for a midnight launch right now.
Yeah.
Did you guys see like Animal Crossing's Twitter was posting about they were like, oh, the update 1.1 is live, and everyone's like, yeah, and it was like, no, it's a patch. It's not like it doesn't. If you don't get it early, it doesn't mean anything. But like reviews are out. That game exists in some form. Like you can download it.
Just go for it, Nintendo. Let's get this rolling.
I don't know. I think Pete Hines needs to get Miyamoto on the phone and just be like, look, agree to disagree. Put the Doom out early. Let's put the Animal Crossing out early, and everyone can have a nice time.
So I had a theory about why Animal Crossing might not be released early, and that's because I don't know if you know, but there's a little something called the Tokyo Olympics this year.
Ooh.
Is it still happening?
Well, that's the question, right? I think as last I heard, the Japanese government definitely wants it to keep happening.
You think?
No.
Well, whether it happens or not, that's up to nature, I guess. But as far as the government's concerned, it seems like it's still happening. And I feel like if maybe like a major Japanese company like Nintendo were being like, hey, because of this global health crisis, we're doing this thing early, it might signal something about an important Japanese initiative that's happening this summer, you know?
Well, I would like it if they released anything early, anything to help people sort of get through this time. There is no way in hell the Olympics are happening in Japan. Every other country is on lockdown. Australia stopped all travel, and Japan just yeah, everybody come on in. I don't see what could go wrong. There's no Japan. Their leaders are too smart to allow that to continue.
Oh yeah,
they're gonna shut it down.
Yeah.
They can just play it on Twitch the way that the Phoenix Suns are doing or whatever.
What is it? All last December, I was planning to take a personal vacation to Japan this year, and all during that time, I was like, why are tickets so expensive? Like more expensive than usual, and it's because I completely forgot the Olympics were happening. So I kept trying to go during Olympic season and kept going I don't understand why tickets are like double the price that they normally are. And my friend told me oh, because you're trying to go for the Olympics. I'm like, oh, completely forgot. That's fun.
Yeah.
If the Olympics are going to get canceled for anything, it's because a mutated bike punk is fighting his best friend with a laser cannon on the Olympic site, according to the film Akira, which I like to watch all the time.
I haven't seen it. I still haven't seen it. You told me I should watch it, and
You're serious?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
You haven't seen Akira?
I haven't seen Akira.
There's in the bad dub, there's literally a line where this Japanese colonel's all like, "Man, we're going to the Olympics," and it's just so good.
One day.
What else do you have to do? What are you doing tonight?
Matt, have you also only seen the live action Ghost in the Shell? Is that the only?
Oh no, I love Ghost in the Shell. That movie, that live action movie, hurt my soul, and I was very sad about that. No, Akira's just that one thing that you just never got around to, but I will eventually. Maybe when the Olympics are actually canceled, then I'll be like, okay, now I'm gonna watch it.
If you're gonna watch, I feel like you wouldn't even understand the Olympics without having seen Akira.
What? I mean, it's not happening.
That's how that
so
works. That's accurate.
Yeah,
100%.
All right. Well, anyways, I'll get to it.
It's on Hulu apparently.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Spectre Gaming says it's on Hulu. It's so good. I want to watch Akira now.
He also said he's disappointed in you.
That's fair. A lot of people say that when I tell them I haven't watched Akira, but I'm busy. I have things to do.
You guys think that Akira movie's ever gonna happen?
Oh god,
the live action one.
So hoping for a Taika take on that. That would have been so weird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd watch that.
Yeah.
I almost thought you said Leica, like the stop motion. That'd be cool too.
I'd watch that. Would be,
dude. Claymation Akira would be amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey,
tentacles and cables and stuff.
So the whole Sony thing happened today. I'm going to try and transition us back to Xbox because I like the Xbox and I'm actually really excited about some of the stuff they're doing. They announced the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members will now get free DLC and more. This is actually a really, really cool story about another cool thing that Xbox is doing, sort of modernizing their strategy. What did you guys think about this? Did you read about all the perks that you're going to get?
Yeah, Game Pass keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, right?
It's just a really good service.
Jeremy, what was your favorite thing?
I got to tell you, I don't think that it would... I think the service is great. This wouldn't move the needle for me at all. Because are you guys like Twitch Prime subscribers or anything?
Yeah, I think by default from Amazon.
You get little bits and bobs of things, and I never even bother with them. It doesn't matter. It's gonna be stuff that's not that tight, or like skins that you can only get through here, but like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I generally am not like an obsessive compulsive acquirer of skins and like nonsense anyways, and so I'm just like, whatever. I don't know. It's cool if you like that sort of thing. If you like have to have every single thing associated with Sea of Thieves or Smite, great. I'm not playing any of those games. I'm not playing Phantasy Star or World of Tanks. Wake me up when you got like an exclusive character for Mortal Kombat 11 or something.
Right. Does it include like expansions or just like skins and things? Like what's the limit on
it alludes to DLC generally, which used to mean expansion. Now it just means like a funny hat for your character.
Or it could mean like the Destiny DLC content, the seasonal pass content, and that would actually be pretty robust, seeing it's $1 to sign up.
Yeah.
For your first month, it's $1, right?
I mean, season pass stuff makes sense. I feel like this is an odd call because like people who are, I guess, playing, people who are stuck with like Sea of Thieves or World of Tanks or like super invested in Smite are, I think, people who are like those are the games they mostly play. Like that's kind of, and at that, like I get the sense that Game Pass is more for people who want to like kind of dabble. So to have like like a piecemeal bonus for a game that is a massive part of like a massive time sink that you're really invested in is like kind of, I mean, it's cool, it's more value, but it's also like it's like a little extra sprinkled on top.
I found it here on Microsoft.com that little company. It's 93% off right now, $1, and then after that it's $14.99 a month. And honestly, you already get so many games, and the fact that they're further expanding what they're offering, it's just like Xbox is so far ahead right now. And then after that, I'm just gonna say it was boring for me. That Sony conference was boring. There's some really interesting tech specs that I'll probably get into over the next few days, but I've been more interested to see tangible things from Xbox regularly over the last few months. And Sony just needs to do something.
Destin,
show the console.
I don't think that Sony presentation was meant to be like a worldwide fan-facing thing. It was clearly supposed to just be like a GDC conference.
No, totally. But they should have, like, they have smart people working there.
They should have thought that through. It's a fair criticism.
It's the 15th GDC conference. We got the loading time leak. We got the article from Mark Cerny. We had now an hour-long PlayStation thing from Sony. Just show us the console. Literally all they had to do was show us the console. They've showed us the logo and they showed us the controller. It's like, okay,
they
guys.
haven't showed us the controller yet.
They didn't?
No,
we have like that. He was basically just like, let's walk step by step through every single core on every single component in the GPU.
That's pretty good.
Doesn't that sound nice?
That sound nice.
I might put that on to go to sleep tonight. I'm not saying it's boring. I'm saying Mark Cerny has a beautiful voice, and it's
has dulcet tones.
He has dulcet tones indeed, and they're coming soon to 3D audio that the PS5 will play out of its massive chassis. And I don't.
Do you think
I'm with the audience though? Just show me the goddamn box.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, stop fooling around, man.
Dude,
Now's not the time for this shit.
I'm on our Sony show, and I'm completely with Destin on this. Like that was a weird presentation to have, and also like Microsoft is kind of crushing it right now. Like Game Pass rules. It's like, oh, you didn't play that game that came out 3 years ago? Well, here it is, free. Go nuts. Like,
yeah, you know what, Sony? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave this concept art up for the rest of the show. Just because you didn't show the console today. I don't care what story we're talking about. As far as I'm concerned, that's the console. That's what it's going to look like.
Greyhound Dan says, I guess the design is not right. That could be why. Maybe they're just like, yeah, approved.
Well, they spend so much time making the SSDs and all the 3D audio and the pictures of people's ears that they haven't finished the case yet. They're figuring out how to glue it all together.
Xbox is just like, it's a goddamn rectangle. Okay, can we move on from this? We're like, okay, that's fine. That's great. I dig it.
I like the rectangle. I think it looks cool.
I do too. What if this was too close to their final concept and Sony's like, oh God, everybody hates it. Like with the boomerang. Do you remember when they revealed the boomerang control in the original PS3 look? And they were like, nope, we can't release that. We need to redesign the controller. And then they went back to the drawing board and they came out with the PS3 controller, which wasn't great, but it was probably better than the boomerang ended up being. Yeah. And then they iterated with the PS4 controller and they drastically improved it.
I
Do
mean,
you
the
think
V
there's a-
design is for sure a dev kit, right? But there was that one leaked image that showed that it had some V design indicator on it. So maybe they really like that because V's 5 and PS5. But
I get it.
Yeah,
you
here's the
think-
one
do you
on
think there's
somebody's
a-
desk.
Do you think there's a timeline where Sony went ahead and released the Boomerang controller with like 6-axis stuff inside of it, and it was the Wii? Like that was the thing that took off, and everyone's like, "I love to do motion sports with my Boomerang and wave it around with all my friends."
Yeah, I don't mean to bring it up. I'm pretty salty about this. It's just like, okay, so Xbox has more teraflops. You have a slightly faster SSD. Great. Sony still has a lot of good IPs. Xbox does have Microsoft Game Studios, which we actually have a story about today, Jeremy. And I'm an Xbox guy. I try to be like, I play on PlayStation, the games that come out on PlayStation. I play the stuff that come on Xbox, but I'm on an Xbox show. So sorry if I'm coming off a little pro Xbox right now.
A little biased.
There's
Huh?
nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
That's what the internet's going to say.
I like to go either way, PlayStation or Xbox or PC or Switch. I'm a little slut for consoles. That's
Ooh.
right.
Don't like
I-
that.
Try them all.
I like all the consoles too. Maybe someday I'll see the PS5, Jeremy.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
I make the thumbnails for IGN videos. Like I made the thumbnail for this one, and like I didn't know what to put, so I just put up that same picture of Mark Cerny standing at a podium because we don't have an
You did
F4
great.
picture of the GD console to put up. Then I'm better at swearing on this show than Zach is. But like, just show us something. Show us like a bad CG render.
Mhm.
Give us a silhouette, like it's a Pokemon before a commercial break.
Yeah. Here's some Xbox B-roll, seeing we have that to show. Let's talk about
that's
Xbox
cool.
Game Studios.
You guys want to plug Game Pass Ultimate some more?
Yeah.
How many studios do they have now? They have 16 first-party Xbox studios, and they're hinting at a new acquisition. Apparently, according to the article that you're referencing, they're sniffing around a Polish studio.
A Polish studio?
Yeah.
Well, there's
Oh.
a bunch of those, and
So
there's
let's
one.
not jump to conclusions.
No,
here.
let's
That
jump to
doesn't
conclusions. Absolutely. CD Projekt Red is going Xbox I don't know where they're based
don't
out
listen
of.
No,
They're
no.
Polish, but Dustin doesn't know what he's talking about, man.
I
There
don't.
are- I think CD Projekt Red might be like. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much money exactly Microsoft has, but it seems like CD Projekt Red could be fun on its own. There's a bunch of smaller yet equally successful Polish devs. Techland comes to mind, the Dying Light people.
Yeah, CD Projekt Red isn't looking for an acquisition.
No.
They don't need financial support. They're good, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think Techland's a safe bet. Tequila Works might be one.
I'm going through topgamedevelopers.com
no,
right
they're
now, seeing what we got. Nothing's
Is,
jumping out to me, to be honest.
Is Crytek Polish? No, they're German.
Is People Can Fly Polish?
Yes. Yeah, they are. That would make sense because People Can Fly did a bunch of work on Gears.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, closely aligned. And with Rod Ferguson leaving, I have to wonder if that studio is going to move on to their next project. They had that sort of spy game leaked not that long ago. And maybe they're moving on to that from Gears, and they're going to buy People Can Fly and then let People Can Fly, work on the Gears of War franchise. I'm going to bring up a picture of a jump to conclusions, Matt, really quick. Just give me a second.
Yeah. We gotta keep that for every show.
Yeah.
Single one goes by where we don't do that.
Anyway,
That's good.
It's exciting. Xbox has heard loud and clear the same tired thing that you hear all the time. Xbox doesn't have enough exclusives. Okay, well, they have 16 studios right now. They're working on it, and they are going to come out swinging in the next few years. They
These
already have
studios are no joke either, dude.
Yeah.
Like 343, Double Fine, In Exile. They've got Obsidian, right?
Yep.
Ninja
Yep.
Theory, Rare. What am I
That's
forgetting?
kind of nuts. Yeah.
Like those are huge names. That's like just off the top of my head. Like I'm like a huge RPG dude, so like you've kind of got me with like 2 or 3 of those already. Like it's a day one purchase no matter what. Like I'm gonna buy the PlayStation. I'm gonna keep playing on PC. I'm gonna buy an Xbox for sure though. Like I'm definitely gonna want to play it for the RPGs that everybody's.
You're making a good case for it. It's also like to be so adamant and just upfront to be like, hey, we bought a bunch of studios. They're working on really cool cutting edge games for our new hardware. it won't be ready for a couple of years into our new hardware. Like, just full disclosure, but like, that's like they're still going to be putting out games. I don't know. It's just
I mean, no, I'm with you. I totally prefer that sort of like movie film industry style approach where like Marvel is like, hey, here's our next movies for the next 7 years. You know exactly what's coming out when, we'll have 3 movies in 2021, we'll have 4 movies in 2022. And I feel like it's kind of the better way to approach things. I mean, I appreciate the element of surprise when it's like, here's a new game and it's available now, but we know, we can assume that games like there's going to be a new Witcher in like 12 years or something like that, or there's going to be a new Cyberpunk in 30 years, and if you're just like, here's our ballpark year, like we know the games are going to happen, just, like.
Well, I think it's just because we're in like a different cycle that isn't happening right now. I could definitely see Microsoft with all of these studios getting to a place where they can say like, here is our release calendar for the next 5 years, starting in like probably 2021. And I would personally love to see that. I think it would be a game's ability to win or lose is really kind of based on the amount of hype that they can generate. And, we see this on every game that kind of crosses our desk. That hype cycle needs to start sooner if you want to win in today's market, because there's just so much more competition from indie publishers and developers and
I mean,
other like really self-sufficient companies like CD Projekt Red.
I think there's definitely like a sweet spot between like, so you don't sort of oversaturate with news about your thing. Like, I mean, the fact that Cyberpunk came out in 2013 before The Witcher 3 was even out, and anyone was like, people were, they're like, Witcher 2 was popular, but it wasn't like Witcher 3 at all. Like, people were like, oh, cool, CD Projekt, I guess. And they were like, here's a logo and like a cool CGI sizzle reel for a thing we're working on that isn't out yet.
I think there's a labor argument to be made also. There's I mean, one of the reasons why game companies don't like announcing projects so far ahead is because cancellations are so rampant in this industry. A lot of projects start up and then get quickly shelved or things like that, and that's bad. And they don't want to overpromise something that just ends up getting shelved later on, like a Scalebound situation. But at the same time, there are a lot of developers who work years on a project that never ends up coming out, and they can never talk about it. And they like, some places you can't even put it on your resume. Some places only put you in the credits of a game if you go all the way from beginning to end.
That's pretty grim. That's super unfair.
And I think if we're honest about games that are in the works that end up getting canceled because we understand how rampant cancellations are in this industry, it would be better for developers who can just put canceled projects on their resume. Like, they put the work in, they should get credit for it, even if it never comes out and makes money.
Yeah, it's not like we like, this happens in movies. X, Y, and Z movie are going to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and like everybody talks pretty openly about like, well, we took elements of this script and we kept this actor on, or like this DP, and we just kind of like rebooted it with this different team, and now here it is. Like, I'd like to see like a little bit of more of that attitude for games that kind of fall into that trap.
I had a question for the panel before we wrap up. So obviously I'm salty. A lot of the internet's pretty salty that we didn't get more Sony news today. Do you think they're planning something for that E3 window, June, July, or maybe even further out at Gamescom? Or at this point, do you think that, I don't know, like, what are your thoughts? When are we actually going to see something tangible from this company that is releasing a console at the end of this year? Matt?
I mean, honestly, the whole calendar is kind of thrown into question. So I would have, like, before E3 was canceled, I probably would have said Sony would have like planned their own independent thing around that time also. But now I'm honestly not sure. I genuinely don't know.
Max?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see a very similar week to this week when GDC was supposed to happen, but it didn't. It's going to be odd to have like an E3 week when things get announced because they're part of like a long-term calendar and everyone's been sort of building towards it, but it's not the kind of thing we've come to expect. I hope that Sony does a better job of communicating whatever their next thing is and getting people's expectations at an appropriate level. If it's something really cool, they should be like, hey, get hype. We're actually showing you the PlayStation 5 soon. And then we won't be disappointed. But then if they just put up like a JPEG, we'll be like, what was that?
What about you, Jeremy?
If they're still planning to release in this calendar year, they have to do a big presentation in the E3 time period. If they don't, they have to have a little bit of a hype cycle. Something. And right now they have nothing. They have a lot of like really super techy stuff out there that like on paper doesn't even really kind of match up to what Xbox is showing. Their whole like argument this current generation has been that they have better exclusives. Like they gotta show those. They have to get out in front of it. They got to show the game. So does Xbox. Like these guys both have to get out there and say, like, if this is really happening and everything is not going like fully apocalyptic, like schools, being out makes it hard for anybody who has kids to work, even if they are working from home. Like that's going to impact things. Like supply chains are going to be impacted. Like traveling, shipping, manufacturing, everything is going to be impacted. So it's not inconceivable that everything just pushes back. But if they are still seeking a 2020 release, they will 100% show something at E3. There's no way that they can get by without.
What's E3?
Yeah.
Yeah, not E3.
But
Not E3.
in that time frame, like June, you think?
Yeah, like what are they going to do? Are they going to wait?
True. Summer's kind of
When
dead.
else would they do it? They're gonna put these machines out for pre-order. No, and they're not going to talk about it until October. That's crazy. Crazy talk.
I mean, we saw the beginning of this last year for very different reasons, but like in the weeks leading up to E3, which did actually happen last year, Sony did have a direct, and I believe, and what is it? Ubisoft carted out this whole hour-long thing for Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Breakpoint.
And it was. I think if everyone announces when they're doing a thing ahead of time, it's actually kind of it's sort of preferable to the sort of shotgun blast of E3 announcements, which were entirely framed around a physical unified trade show on location. But if like everyone's just if everyone's doing their own separate live stream, like right now as we're doing this, Double Fine did a big GDC indie game showcase.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think it's entirely realistic for there to be something resembling the normal volley of like E3 announcements, but without E3,
Yeah,
they can just do it like Nintendo style. Like you just pre-record stuff and
they have
push
that
it out to everyone.
What's it called, Max?
Oh,
That's right, they do.
State of Play.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
State of Play.
So we're probably just gonna see something like that, but I guess they also have to ask themselves like, who's gonna be able to afford these things? Everybody's like, not to be like grim here, but everyone's like 401ks are crashing, like stocks are crashing. A lot of the jobs that have been created are gig economy jobs. Those people don't have benefits, or paychecks coming in, like Uber drivers, food deliverers. All the people that work at E3 and all the people that work at San Diego Comic-Con, like they ain't getting paid. They're not gonna.
Yeah, it's a weird year, man. It's a really strange time to be alive.
Really grim.
Yeah.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You want to take us out on that note, Max?
No, I've
Yeah,
got a
absolutely.
silver lining. I've got a silver lining. There's a piece of really good news.
Not my retirement fund, based on what I just looked up.
Winds of Winter update. George R.R. Martin says he's healthy, he's isolated, he's getting plenty of writing done. We're gonna get that book.
Nice.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay. All
Game
right.
of Thrones. Game of Thrones. We're gonna get the conclusion that we deserve finally, once and for all.
Well, if anyone knows how to give just a nice happy ending that puts a button on things, it's George R.R. Martin. I'm sure everyone will be happy with how that shakes out.
Stay safe out there, George.
Yeah, everyone stay safe out there. Thank you all for tuning in. Guys, thanks for chatting. This was a nice little way to put a button on this day. You can follow us all on Twitter. I'm Max Scoville. Matt is Law of TD. Destin is Destin Legary.
Just my name, yep.
Just your name. And then Jeremy is Danger Sharks, Sharks with a Z.
That's
at
right.
the end, not at the beginning. That would be like Jar. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, 4 p.m. Pacific on all the various tendrils of IGN's kitchen Skype cam setup that we are currently using.
Bye. Everybody.
Goodbye.